Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. Today I'm standing in front of my entire Kate Elliott collection. Got them all here. Her Duran series, her Crown of Stars series, and her, what is it called? I don't know what it's called. The Spirit Gate series. These and up here. Anyway, got them all. Not only that, but you know, I have met Kate Elliott several different times at different conventions, and she signed my, I always show off my signed books, folks. I always show off my signed books. She's signed them to me. We're reviewing Book 2 in the Crown of Stars series. You can find my review of King's Dragon on my channel. Just type in Brian Lee Durfee, King's Dragon. Video will magically appear upon your computer screen, and you can watch that review of book number 1 in the Crown of Stars. This is a review for book number 2, and it will be pretty spoilery free. It's hard to review a series, especially a 7-book-long series, without sort of giving away some spoilers for the books that happened previous, but, we'll make do. I love this series. We always talk about the cover art. I always have loved these covers. All the covers were illustrated by Jody Lee. I like that they've kept them consistent. They've got these wonderfully stylized Jody Lee paintings with the graphics around it that make it look like an old-timey bound leather book. All the books match when they sit on the shelf, so that is a plus. Now, some people have told me they were scared off by some of the illustrations, like they didn't know if these were children's books or what because of the illustrations on them. Now, they're very adult books. I can see why the style of the illustrator lends itself to kind of a children's book feel, but don't let that scare you off. These are every bit as grim-dark as George R.R. Martin. They're every bit as dense in world building and political intrigue and just character-driven stories as Game of Thrones or Tad Williams' Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, or any of those just really big epic. I mean, these are epic. 7 books, all of them about 800 pages long. So don't let the cover art make you think that this is a children's book, because it's not. These books are for adults, not children. People under the age of 18, 16, these are too involved, too many characters, too many things going on, too dense. The writing is very, very, very Tad Williams-esque. I don't think kids would like it at all, but adults, this is adult fare. And, they've got, we always talk about maps. Now, in the first several books, there was never a map or a character list. So I made my own character list, and then, because in the later volumes, they do have character lists and maps. And so they do have this nice map in the later volumes, and so I trimmed it out and put it in, used it as a bookmark. And then this wonderful character list here, because like I said, there's a George R.R. Martin level of characters in these books. They're big books. What's it about? Well, you can watch my review of King's Dragon if you'd like. And then in this one is just a continuation of the story. These are not standalone novels by any means. You got to start at the beginning and read through all 7 books, because there are no real standalone moments. It just stops mid-story. Each book stops mid-story. So it is it's a big, huge 7-book series that's all one story, just sort of broken up in 7 books. There's no real sort of cliffhanger moments at the end of these books. There's no real sort of plot lines get tied up at the end of these books. It's all carries through to the end, where it's all wrapped up at the end. So you do have to invest in all 7 books if you're going to get this series. So book 1 we talked about. Book 2, what's it about? It's just easier for me to read the description on the back, because it gives a great sense of who we're dealing with, the main characters, and what's going on. So, all of our heroes are held captive by their destinies. Sanglant, the Prince of Dogs, King Henry's bastard son, thought believed dead by all, is being held captive in the city of Ghent by Bloodheart, the Aika warlord. Who is Bloodheart and the Aika? The Aika are sort of the elvish creatures of this land. And so Sanglant, the prince, is held captive by Bloodheart, the Aika prince. The warlord Aika. The Aika warlord, in other words. Cursed by his mother's blood with an inability to die, Sanglant struggles to maintain the last shreds of his sanity in the hopes of rescue. Lyath, now a King's Eagle. Lyath is one of our other main characters. Now a King's Eagle. The King's Eagles are sort of like an elite fighting group. Is still grieving over Sanglant. In book 1, she sort of kind of get a little crush on Sanglant. She strives to unlock the secrets of her past while seeking to evade the trap set for her by an obsessively ambitious man, who is Hugh, the priest Hugh, who is our main antagonist. But even a post in the King Henry's court as a King's Eagle offers her little protection from those determined to claim the forbidden knowledge she has hidden. Remember, in book 1, she hid this book of magic. She is the possessor of this book of magic spells, and everybody wants it. And most importantly, the priest, Hugh, who is one of our main bad guys in this. Okay, so Elaine, raised by humble surroundings, but now proclaimed a count's heir. So Elaine in book 1, he's an orphan boy, but we find out that he's the heir of one of the counts, one of the main sort of barons of this land. He is increasingly troubled by visions of the enemy, and he's befriended he is increasingly troubled by visions of the enemy he befriended and the lady of battles whom he has sworn to serve. So one of the things in book 1 is he befriended one of the Aika, one of the elvish creatures, and so he's sort of like still sees visions of this guy, and also visions of the Lady of Battles, who he swore to serve in the very beginning of book 1. A man who Elaine is a man who desires nothing more than peace, but he's about to be thrust into the heart of the war with the Aika, the elvish people. So Fifth Son is a new character to this. He was sort of mentioned briefly in book 1, but now he's the main character in book 2. He is the least favored child of Bloodheart, the Aika warrior, right? So he's the least favored child of Aika, the Aika warrior Bloodheart, who is now holding Sanglant captive. But anyway, Fifth Son has returned to the lands of his own people to build an army to do his father Bloodheart's bidding. Only if he survives his mission, though. If he does survive, he will become a force to be reckoned with. Like, again, I mean, you can see the political intrigue that swirls through all of this book. We've got perspectives told from Sanglant, the prisoner, the prince who's a prisoner. We've got perspectives told from Lyath, the girl who's kind of in love with Sanglant, the girl that holds the magic book of spells, and people are trying to steal it from her. And then we get Elaine, perspectives from him. He was the orphan boy from the beginning who sort of found out that he may or may not be the heir to the count. And then we've got Fifth Son, who's sort of the bastard child of Bloodheart, the Aika warlord, and now Fifth Son has his own sort of, machinations going, like, is he really going to be faithful to his father? And is the army that he's gathering, is it really going to be to help his father or to hurt his father, okay? So, and then King Henry, who is the father of Sanglant. Sanglant is of course, the captive prince. King Henry continues his progress through a troubled realm, so he's on a crusade through this realm his own self. He's to defeat rebellious lords and gather the promises of troops to use at Ghent to rescue his son. Anyway, all of these characters are fighting their own battles. That's just the tip of the iceberg of the characters. Like, some of my favorite characters, like Hannah, who's Lyath's friend, and Ivor, who is Lyath, they also become King's Eagles. They also become part of the elite fighting force. I love those guys. And then the priest Hugh is one of the most loathsome villains in fantasy. He's just a great, delicious villain to follow. I mean, this is rich world building, on par with Game of Thrones, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. on par with Wheel of Time, Steven Erikson, Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. This is one of the most underrated fantasy series out there. 7 books of just absolute dynamite world building, great prose, just prose that's just, you know, sprinkled throughout this book. Just prose on the level of Tad Williams and some of our greatest writers like Pat Rothfuss. The prose is immaculate. The world building and just the way that the whole world is constructed. I mean, just the dynamics between the political figures and the religious figures. And if you want to learn how to do politics and religion in a fantasy series, there is no better fantasy series to study than this Crown of Stars series. You know, with starting with King's Dragon, Prince of Dogs, we're talking about now. It's one of the series that really sort of schooled me in how to write my own stuff. When I was writing this, I was really studying a lot of what Kate Elliott was doing. In fact, that was suggested to me by my literary agent. In fact, I had already read these before he suggested it to me, but he said, you need to go and take a look at Kate Elliott and how she built her religions in this world if you want to build a fantastical religions in your own world. And it worked because I am known through, you can look at this up on the Goodreads and Audible and Amazon reviews. I am known for creating just a great set of religions, competing religions in my story. And I got a lot of that. I learned a lot of that from these books. So if you want to start reading just a great fantasy series that's reminiscent of the ones that I just mentioned, get these. Very underrated. I think that they're just fantastic. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. These are some of my... This is just one of my favorite series of all times, and I like to reread it every now and then. So, Prince of Dogs. 9.5 out of 10. Let's give it.